What's up, guys? Clutch here. Today we're going to do a bit of a live dye type of video, just because one, it's a very special project, and two, a lot of people want to see a live dye, and I really want to get this one done. So basically what we're going to be doing today is I was talking with whoever runs the Rochester Knighthawks social media page about dyeing some heads, and the Military Appreciation Night is coming up. I think it's February 12th or the 21st or somewhere there. It's always a very special game. Obviously, it's Military Appreciation Night. They do custom jerseys, and their captain, Joe Resiteris, wants custom dyed heads, so they sent me over a mock-up of what they're looking for. I don't know if you'll be able to see it there, but that's what they wanted. And at first, I thought that'd be pretty easy, and now that I'm actually looking at it, I'm a little concerned. But we're going to push through it. We're going to try and make it happen. So basically, it's going to be a gray and white digital camo fade down here, and then up at the top is going to have a black eagle, honor and defend, and then on the sides here they actually have 4 stars. Those will be black. Basically, they also wanted 3 stripes here, but I think I'm just going to leave it like this, maybe do 1 stripe of some sort, but I don't know. So basically, all you got to do is with your vinyl, show you guys how to do the logo a little bit. Basically, when you cut it out, these two are pretty much combined, so what you do, or what I do, is I take out the whole middle portion, so whatever part's going to be dyed, which should be ideally this, and have the outside part, and I actually cut the wings right here, that way it folds onto the head a little easier. Place it on, even it up, and you're good to go from there. So I'm going to finish up the second one. He'll want 2 of them. Put the vinyl on, maybe show you guys a little fast forward of how I put the vinyl on, and we'll get to dyeing. Cool. Alright, so as you can see real quickly, I just put this on. I like to cut bigger ones like this where it kind of overlaps the head. I like to cut them into sections, that way it makes it a little easier to lay it on the head and you can angle it better. But it looks pretty good to me. And the same thing as always, just take a lighter real quick, light it, especially where it overlaps on the head. That's usually where you get a lot of bleeds or little small marks. So try and get it all right there. Down here on the bottom, you know, just a little something something. And you're good to go. So next we're going to put the words honor and defend on here and then go from there. So ideally, same thing as we did with the top logo here where we inverted it. We're going to do the same thing with the words, since the words are going to come out black like you can see on here. So basically, there's 2 different ways. One, you can take your vinyl with all the words on it and peel out each individual letter. That way it makes it a little easier for the vinyl to come undone. So we're going to do that real quick. But always make sure, you know, like the O's and the R's, they have that little extra area, or a little extra vinyl, which I'll show you here in a second. Definitely make sure you keep those intact. You don't want to pull those off and lose those. Those 2, and then the little part in the R. Just because, you know, you need them. But basically, since this one, you don't want to have anything overlapping. Oh, there's an H there. You don't want to have it overlapping because somehow it does bleed. Our dye does get through overlaps typically. So try to keep it as little as possible. So to kind of go with this scheme, we're just going to trim this vinyl here a little bit. That way it's not horrible. Leave it pretty big on the top. That way when we put our hot glue down, it'll work. But from here, super simple. Be as careful as you can, especially when you're doing this without transfer tape, but just kind of peel it. And obviously those two parts of the O and the R won't come with you, but you don't want to touch it a whole lot because it may fold over and you may get into some trouble. So from here, try and line it up. Looks like we're going to do it right there. You can see, just like that. Smooth it out, make sure there's no air bubbles. Fold it over, same thing. Heat it up. Make sure it sticks. And make sure, you got the letters relatively straight, so if you look at it, you can see it and read it. And from here, nice and simple, take your X-Acto knife, lift up the pieces of the O's that go in here, and try and angle them as best as you can. Now, what I like to do is after, anything that has words or something, I like to put the additional pieces in there, if there's O's, R's, whatever it may be. And then I don't heat them up right away because I like to put them in, make sure they look even. If I need to adjust it, I will. So you can see here the R is a little goofy. So nice and simple, try not to lift it or rip it, and just try and place it. So that R gave me a little bit of trouble, shocker, but you can see honor, defend here. So next up, one of the biggest things that they wanted was 4 stars on the back of each side in black. So to do that, believe it or not, it's the same idea. You can see here I did too. Basically on my silhouette I made 4 stars, lined them up evenly, and then made a rectangle around them. But same thing, you can just lift it up. Lift up the negative space for the outer portion, like so. And that's going to be, where the vinyl is going to cover up white, and then where the stars are will be black once we dye it up. So try and line it up. I think on the last one I did something like that. There, nice and simple. Make sure it looks even. Make sure you can see it from the back. Perfect. Let's go ahead, take your lighter, light the corners. Anything that's big like this and has small designs in it, I like to hold the lighter over it for a little longer than normal. That way it just sticks a little better, and that way, believe it or not, when you do heat up vinyl, it does shrink or expand. But if you lay it down flat and you do this, it will stick to the head. That way you don't get any of the points of the stars messed up, especially when it's something as meaningful and special as this kind of dye job. You don't want there to be any type of mix-ups or mishaps. So just a fun little trick. Like I said, we're going to do the same thing. We got this part here. Line it up. So what I did is on this side where this corner goes, I put it, there's a little divot here on the charge 2 head right next to the sidewall hole, so that's where I kind of try and line it up. That way I don't have to go back and forth. Angle it just a bit. You can see, got it there. Looks good on both sides. Heat it up, and then we're going to lay down the digital camo. One thing that I like to do, especially with patterns, anything that's camo or something that can overlap, I like to, 1, overdo it, 2, make them smaller, and 3, like I said, overlap. It really gives a really cool look to it, especially if you're doing some type of camo head, which I'll show you guys when we peel this. But basically, got my digital camo stuff here, so I just kind of lift it up by a corner. And whenever I'm doing a fade, I usually start, put a piece of vinyl where you want the fade to kind of end. We really want it to look nice and faded, so just like that. And then I usually do about every 3 to 4 stickers, I will use the lighter to them. It's a little tedious to do it after every one, and I figured if you do it enough, you can do it every so often. But another thing, so ideally, I've done this a couple times, but when you lay the vinyl, if you're doing a pattern and you want to keep it even, you're doing 3 colors, so white, gray, and dark gray being the outer portion. Try and space it out to where there's enough space for one piece of vinyl to fit in between each one. You can do it with your eyes or whatever. This way you get kind of a really cool look, and then also, like I said, which I'll show you after we dyed up the first color, overlapping with stuff is cool. Gives a nice effect and actually makes it look more realistic, I guess you could say. So like I said, I usually do 3 or 4 pieces, heat up one side, go to the inside, and do the same thing. Just heat it up just a little bit and press down. So we're going to continue to do this all around the head, and then we're going to dye it up after... Oh no, we're actually not going to dye it up yet. We got to mask off the top, so we'll finish this up. Finish it up, just put some of the digital camo stuff on here. Basically, like I said before, we're using small patterns. I like to try and give some space, you know, maybe a little less than a whole pattern away. You can see they're relatively close. But basically, things I've learned in the past and then through a bunch of dyeing heads and stuff is the more vinyl when you're doing patterns, the better. That way it stands out and you get a full effect. You don't want to have, like let's say you're doing red, white, and black cam, you don't want a piece of white here, a piece of red here, and then white and red, just because it won't pull together. So the more I use, the better. But basically, after this point, what I do is I go through, I look, and I add some random decals to both of them. That's what I'm going to do at least, just to kind of make sure it really has a full digital camo look and actually comes out, you know, pretty good, especially since it's for Joe Recitaris of the Knighthawks, and it's for a really special night. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to label off the top part here, and then we're going to dye it up. We got the white to gray fade here, and then actually what I ended up doing is for the top part here, I put a lot of hot glue. As you can see, I mean, it's everywhere. Just because this is kind of a special dye, a fancy dye, and it's actually going to be given to some professional players. I want to try and make this as best as possible. So fun little trick for you guys. If you use hot glue on anything, one of the first things you should do is obviously, the more you use, the better. You can never use too much hot glue, or at least in my opinion. Try and get the seams, and then after you put all the hot glue on, I throw it in the freezer for about 2 or 3 minutes. That way it seals and it hardens, and you can see certain places you miss. You can go back through and put more hot glue there. So right here, there's a little spot. You can see a little bit of white. So let's see if we can, hopefully my hot glue gun's still hot enough. And basically, just go through and do some touch-ups. Anywhere you see white, definitely hot glue. Anywhere there's seams and anywhere where your vinyl overlaps. So like I said, the more the better. And then anytime you see any of those little stringy things, like right here, I don't know if you can see on the camera, just peel them off. You don't want them to get on the logo or anywhere that you dyed. Just little small tidbits there, but you know, definitely the more patience you have, the better. The more hot glue, the better. I usually go through about 2 or 3 different times where I put hot glue on, throw it in the freezer, pull it out, and look. Anywhere you see white that you don't want to be dyed, you throw some hot glue on there, and it's looking pretty good. You know, I'm not too worried a whole lot about the holes, just because obviously they'll be strung up and used. So anywhere that there's dye in a top hole or anything, nothing too crazy. So next thing, we're going to layer on the extra vinyl here and then throw it in black. We're just going to try and layer it. Definitely overlapping works very nicely, especially for camo dyes. So nice and simple overlap. Don't worry about bleeding. It's not going to bleed through the vinyl that you overlap, but this can be a little tricky if you're using the same color vinyl for this, just because you can't really see where previous ones were. So I like to try and find a good stopping point where I can heat them up and press down. So we got here, did 3, and I notice right where I stopped right here. So go through, cover up the whole head, and then from there we're going to throw it in the dye. And I'm actually going to show you using silver gray, or lax dip silver gray is great. It gets a nice silver color, but once you get to a certain point, it almost doesn't get a whole lot darker unless you leave it in there for a long time. So I'm going to show you guys how to use black to get a nice silver gray, and believe it or not, it works very well, but you really have to watch it. So like I said, we're just going to finish this up, throw it in the gray, and I'll show you guys some tips and tricks for that. If you've been watching some of my other videos, you probably noticed that one of the things I do is, or at least how I dye it, I throw the powder into a mason jar, shake it up, pour it in there, and then let it cool off after it's been heated up a lot. But basically, I'm pretty nervous about this just because there's so much detail and so much small room for errors, so much places that it can bleed. But basically, you're going to dye the top part black, and then from there fade it. Fun fact, this is a little tip for you guys who are trying to get a nice dark gray, like a titanium looking color. Putting a head in black, or jet black from lax dip, for about I don't know, maybe 10 seconds tops. We'll fade it to a nice dark gray. And to show you real quick, I think what I'm going to do is break one of my rules and actually show you. So you can see the grays are relatively the same. I'll dip it in, go 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Get a little extra, pull it out, rinse it off. Always make sure you rinse after you dye. You can see the gray, it got nice and dark gray real quick. So I think we're going to throw it in for another like 5 seconds. Just dipping and dunking just a little bit so it gets a nice little touch of fade. Pull it out and it's looking pretty dark gray. So that was about, I don't know, I'd say 20 seconds tops. 10-second intervals for each. Pull it out, rinse it, and there you go. So you can see the two different shades. This is more like a titanium gray, and this is more of a light gray. It took maybe 20 seconds, so if you guys are looking for a nice dark gray, just a little bit of lax dip jet black will do you pretty nicely. So I'm going to throw this in the freezer for a couple seconds, pull it out, and I don't need to show you guys dyeing it in black, so it will take a couple minutes, but basically just going to dye. See if I can get it up to the stars, and then we're going to throw it in the freezer. I'm going to go run to Taco Bell, get some packages for my mom's, and finish up. We finished them up. It's got the logo up there in black with Honor and Defend, the 4 black stars there, and then it's got a nice gray white fade. So I'm going to peel the stickers off. I don't think I'm going to do a time-lapse video just because it does take some time to peel all this off, and I'm fairly worried. Very nervous because I don't know how well this all is going to come out. So we're just going to peel it off real quick. Like I showed you guys, the simple thing to do is take your X-Acto knife real quick and just trying to get under and pull. Don't use your X-Acto knife. You don't want to damage the head. But I'll do a couple stickers here, and then I'm going to peel them off myself and show you guys the final product. So let me see. Actually, I did throw them in the freezer for about 30 minutes or so after I dyed them. That way they do stay, relatively stiff, or at least keep a good amount of stiffness to them. But you can see here the digital camo pattern is coming off pretty easily, and it looks pretty cool. You can kind of see the different shades of dark gray, light gray, and white here. So we're going to finish this up, and I'll show you guys the final product. Alright guys, so about 5 hours later I finished the project. Like I said, this is for the Rochester Knighthawks Military Appreciation Night. I was approached on social media by whoever runs their social media account, the Rochester Knighthawks one of course. Just said, hey, Joe Recitarius wants a custom dyed head. Would you be willing to do it for Military Appreciation Night? I said absolutely. They sent me over a mock-up of what they wanted, and I think I pulled it off pretty well. So to show you guys, I'll show you the first one. They're the same thing, just a little different. The bottom portion is a gray to white fade with digital camo, gray, white, and then the darker gray being the surrounding portion. And up top we have, I think it's some type of military eagle. I don't know the exact words, and I don't want to butcher it out of respect. But military eagle up here, and then on one side says honor, the other side says defend in black, which took some time to do. And the coolest portion, which there was a small amount of bleeding here and there, but not a whole lot, not enough to, really dissatisfy it or make me feel like I didn't accomplish this, is the 4 black stars on both sides on the back of the scoop. I think that's really cool. It's a nice touch, and even after you string it up, you won't be able to see, or you will be able to see this, and it will take care of all of the bleed. Like I said at the beginning of the video, the one portion I was a little worried about was the holes in the Charge 2 head and some Under Armour heads that are very divoted in. I didn't want to put hot glue in the 2 middle ones because it may interfere with the logo, and that's the most important part. So a little bit of bleed back there, but I'm not too worried. Here's the second one, like I said, pretty much identical. Obviously the camo pattern down here can't really be identical, but they came out a lot better than I expected. I'm super happy with these. Huge shout out to the Rochester Knighthawks for allowing me to do this for some of their players and for a very special night. It means so much to me that they would ask me to do this, so I was more than happy to do it. So there it is, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching. Hopefully you learned something or picked something up, especially if you're looking to dyeing heads. And let me know down below what you think. If you think these came out good, I'm overly stoked with these. And like I said, very minimal bleeding on them. You can see a little bit of black spots here and there, but nothing crazy. So there it is. So last thing before we go, please check out iconiclacrosse.bigcartel.com. I'll post a link down below. Got plenty of apparel up for grabs as well as some custom dyed heads. Really cool goodies, but what I really want to talk to you guys about is Kyle Jackson's lacrosse YouTube channel. So Kyle Jackson, for those who don't know, he played at the University of Michigan, and this is his second year with the Rochester Knighthawks. Obviously, they're my favorite team, and you know, I never watched Kyle Jackson in college. I really never followed Michigan. I've always been a huge Maryland fan and a Notre Dame fan. So I don't know much about his college experience, but as a professional player, his rookie year, he did really well. And this year is absolutely killing it. And he started his own YouTube channel this year, which is full of all kinds of awesome vlogs, game footage, practice footage, just overall such a really good vlogger. And I actually approached him a couple weeks ago about dyeing him a custom head, and I want you guys to check it out as well. Subscribe to his channel and check out his videos. You know, even if you don't like the Knighthawks, you can get a view or get an idea of what it's like to be a professional player who lives not in the state that they play in, has to work full time, but also cares enough about the community to do vlogs and do really cool videos. So I'll post a link to his YouTube channel down below for sure. Maybe up here if I can figure that out. I'm not very tech savvy, but also hit him up on Instagram, KJChoi47. Kyle Jackson was kind enough to let me dye up a head for him, and he made a video about it, and it's incredible. It really makes me feel good, and it makes me feel like, you know, I accomplished something because a professional player uses my stuff and reached out and let me do stuff for him. So like I said, please go shoot him a follow. I will post it up here or somewhere on the video as well as down below. Check it out, iconiclacrosse.bigcartel.com. I got plenty of custom dyed and custom strung heads up for grabs, and I'm hoping by this weekend to have a lot more. So thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you learned something. One last look at the custom military appreciation night. Under Armour charged 2 heads for Joe Recitares of the Rochester Knighthawks. Had a lot of fun doing this, so I'm going to get these out today, and they will definitely have them for that game.